an ultimate global podcast. Hello, and welcome to our special weekly podcast on trending international and social affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kora and George Mavros from Sydney.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Ultimate Global Podcast, where we are talking about, in another special series of episodes for charities and not-for-profits. And in this episode, we are talking about the charity of our very own co-host of Ultimate Global Podcast, George Mavros. So we are talking about the Ross Hutchison Foundation, and George is collecting a total of $64,000 for his birthday, which is coming ahead on the 5th of November. And I would pass it on to George to tell us more about Ross Hutchison Foundation and also about this charity event which is coming ahead. Passing on to you, George.
Thank you very much, Saurabh. So, first off, the Ross Hutchison Foundation, strangely enough, was created by a fellow by the name of Ross Hutchison. And he's a celebrity up in Penrith. A lot of people probably don't know that name, Ross Hutchison, but if anybody knows Humphrey B. Bear in Australia, and we all grew up with Humphrey B. Bear, Ross was the original Humphrey B. Bear. Ross was also a choreographer, a singer, a dancer. He worked on shows like Bandstand, both with Brian Henderson and those that followed after him, Daryl Summers. When Benny Hill came to Australia and did the series Benny Hill Down Under, Ross provided the dancers for that show, which were the Ross Hutchison dancers. He's danced with Liza Minnelli, Sammy Davis Jr. And if you find out about Ross's career in TV, you're really getting the history of Australia over many years. Ross is now 79 years of age, and he would put most 30-year-olds to shame with his enthusiasm and his care. So the foundation's based in Penrith, and it focuses on people that are suffering from domestic violence, mostly women, but we do have a few people that are males and they also suffer from domestic violence. Unwed mothers and single mums who, sadly, a number of them are a fairly young age and their families have deserted them. We try to help them out. And then we've got a fair collection of people in various states of homelessness. People that suffer from disabilities, could be mental, could be physical, could be a whole heap of things. Basically, at the foundation, we don't care what's caused you to come to our door. We just want to put a smile on your face, and hopefully today will be a brighter day than it was yesterday. So that's sort of what we do. We work in with many charities, a lot of whom have government funding. We don't have any government funding at this stage. All our funding comes from donations, and it comes from volunteers and people that want to just pitch in and help Ross. And for years, Ross has tried to do the whole thing on his own with the help of a few volunteers. I stepped up to become honorary CEO for him last year. So that's the foundation. Now, the $64,000 birthday, I'm actually 67 this year on the 5th of November. But back when I was 64, I had my 64th birthday. And there's a show many years ago, there was a show in America which was called the $64,000 Question. And so for my 64th birthday, I started the $64,000 charity event. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to see if I could influence the raising of $64,000 in 1 year, so before I turned 65, for charity, just by talking to people and getting people motivated and all that. Well, unfortunately, we got this little thing that probably no one's heard about called COVID. And it came along And that sort of put an end to fundraising and events and going out and things like that. So with the support of my darling wife, Sharon, we decided this year I'd celebrate my 67th birthday to celebrate becoming the CEO at the foundation. And also we'd rekindle the $64,000 challenge. And so what I'm going to try and do is see if we can raise $64,000 in conjunction with the Ross Hutchison Foundation in my 67th, 68th year.
Right. I think that's excellent, George. And you have been running this foundation for some time now. Would you also like to highlight on the history of this foundation and how this foundation was started? What were the objectives? I know you have touched base upon some of them briefly. Would you like to tell a bit more about that?
Yeah, look, when Ross started it, for many, many years, he donated to all sorts of charities. He was involved in various boards, still is, to the ones that he thinks does the thing properly. But what he found was a lot of the charities were top heavy, and a lot of the charities, there was a lot of money going out to manage it and operate it, rather than actually delivering as many dollars as possible to the people. And it's a question that comes up quite often now, because a lot of people will say, well, how much of the money do you actually put towards the charity, and how much do you get? I've been asked several times by people, so how much are you drawing as a CEO? And I say, it's called honorary because I don't get paid. Um, um, so there are some costs that are covered, but I assure people, both Ross and I put far more in than we ever take out of the foundation. And so Ross decided if everybody else was doing it their way, he'd try and do it his way. And so when he was working, he is a healer. He's a health practitioner in certain areas. When he was doing his TV gigs or his movies or whatever he was earning, he was using that, and he put it into his own foundation, and then got a bunch of friends to help support it. And he started by that. He also found that there's numbers of charities that tend to focus on we only look after people in this area, we only look after people in that area, and they sometimes they can be because of their religious connections or a church connection, they may not really want to help those people as much as they'll help these people. We try as best we can to be non-judgmental, and so we just try to help where we can help.
Yeah,
he started many initiatives in Penrith. He actually, many years ago, he started a school for people with disabilities to learn how to drive. And then that got moved on to another charity that was going to look after it. They didn't quite get it continue it the way they could have. He's organised carer cards. This year alone, I think we've been able to source 3 or 4 wheelchairs for people. One lady had a wheelchair in the back of the car. They couldn't afford insurance. The car burst into flames overnight. They lost the car. They lost the wheelchair. Contacted Ross. Between Ross and I, we were able to get her a replacement, I think, with under 4 or 5 days. So we've probably, in some way, shape or form, contribute to in excess of 100 people being fed each week. We've got a couple of great supporters that come and get food. We get food donated to us. They take the food from us, cook up meals, and then they go and feed the people that need the meals.
Yeah. Have there been any challenges for you, George, and also for Ross, while you both started this foundation, while you're running this foundation, I'm sure that charities and not-for-profits have got a lot of challenges on a day-to-day basis with respect to how they're running it and how they're making sure that the main purpose of the foundation still remains the same even after 3 or 4 years. Because sometimes the vision might change, the mission might change, or the motivation might not be the same. But there are a lot of founders who are running the charities, they started with a purpose, and I'm sure you must have seen some sort of challenges as well while kind of fulfilling that purpose over the years.
Yeah, so you're right. Ross sort of started it off, and whilst he's helped all sorts of people, just recently we provided some funds to a group, uh, husband and wife, who have organised a team of young Fijian boys to play rugby union, and the concept behind that was that by getting the young boys involved in the union, make sure we keep them off the street, make sure they don't get into mischief. So we will look at different causes, and we'll support different causes. But Ross sort of started it initially, um, irrespective of whether it's domestic violence or it's alcoholism or drugs or whatever the issue is to the adult, it usually impacts on the children. And so Ross wanted to focus on helping families and helping situations that would in turn make children's lives a little bit easier. So just this year, we're in the early stages of launching an initiative with a wonderful networking group called BNI that I happen to be a member of. And there'll be more on this down the track, but we're launching the Ross Hutchison Foundation BNI graduate program, and we're going to be introducing university students into business networking. And the idea behind that is we think if we can have more good people in business, then we have better business. So if we got better business people, better business with the right sort of motivation, we'll have more people to be able to help us with the charitable work. You'll never get rid of the need for charity. Anybody that thinks you can remove all need for charity, I think is being unrealistic. But we will continue to remember where the foundation started and what our focus was. But if we build better business people and they build better businesses, we'll have more people to support those that need the support.
Absolutely, George. I totally agree with you that if you are trying to build the community in a better way, that's a brilliant way of kind of delivering the purpose foundation has on the larger scale. Um, do you want to also highlight the event which is coming up in the next week? I know we have also touched base upon the serious part of it, but what are the fun elements for people to kind of come to the event? Are there any fun elements?
Well, as you know from my post last night, Sarab, I do enjoy loud music and I do enjoy dancing. So um, I've had a reputation of being work hard, party harder. Um, I don't need drugs and I don't need alcohol to have fun. But give me some good rock and roll and dance music, and I'm in. So we've got live music on the night. We're providing finger food. Um, the event starts at 7 p.m. at Penrith Paceway, and we're in the members' lounge. Hopefully, when you post this, Sarab, you can put the details of where people can buy tickets. We've got an auction on for the night. So we'll have a live auction and we'll also have some silent auction. But this is also my 67th birthday. So it's not going to be boring with a whole lot of talks and all of that. We're there to have a lot of fun and raise money for charity.
Yeah, sounds like a really interesting plan for which I'm definitely down for it. Um, and in the history of this charity, what have you found as a CEO? As we have been asking this question to a lot of CEOs who are coming to this podcast, but I would like to ask you this question: what have been the lowest points for you, and what have been the most proudest achievements for you as the CEO of the Ross Hutchison Foundation?
Well, in the short period of time that I've been there, um, I guess one of the low points for me is the number of people that want to compliment me on what I'm doing and telling me I'm a terrific bloke, and the number of people that want to compliment Ross and telling him that he's a terrific bloke. But then when we go out to ask for support and for donations, or to give us something that we can raffle, or something that we can auction off, or just buy a $25 ticket and come along to the event, um, I'm saddened by, especially up in the local area, that we don't get a much bigger support for him than what we're getting. That's not wanting to criticise the locals, but it is sad to think that a guy that has put so much into the local area can't get a bit more support for basically what's he trying to do? Raise money to help locals. So it's a pretty good gesture. The high points, well, I'm personally a member of BNI Alliance at Parramatta. We meet on a Wednesday morning at 6:30, as you know. And I'm just blown away by the support that I've had from my BNI family. And the couple of people in my chapter have just stepped up, and that gives you great heart. But one of my other high points, we had somebody through a divorce, had virtually a garage full of household furniture, and through a good friend of mine in another BNI, it was suggested to her, rather than waste her time trying to sell all of that, why don't you just donate it? And so we've probably got a donation of in excess of $5,000 to $10,000 worth of house. Imagine just an entire household. So I went and collected all that furniture a few weeks ago, and we were able to drop it off to basically a halfway house, or a house for people that are doing it tough. And so there's 8 people living in that house, and I was able to empty that whole garage and just deliver it. And the smile that you see on the faces of these people, just because they got a secondhand television, or a secondhand bed, or a secondhand table, and yeah, to see the last year we did a giveaway at Christmas. So imagine you have a market stall, but you don't have to pay for it. And so what we did is, all the people, the needy people, we invited them, and they could just wander through. We had clothes and toys and all sorts of things. And I watched an 8-year-old girl get a walk up to this bike, and you just saw this girl go. And what that conversation was, are you saying I can have that? And her mum said yes. And that brought many of us to tears. So that's the buzz. And seeing people smile just because of what we do, yeah, I always get a high out of that for charity. You know, you do something, you can put a smile on someone's dial. It's pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's
my biggest high. My biggest high will be if we achieve the $64,000 challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think people who are watching this episode, just go out and donate your contribution towards making this a success for George. Um, I will definitely be a part of the event, George, and I'll be marking it as attending by tomorrow. And I will also be sharing this with my community on LinkedIn. People who are in Sydney, or even if people want to donate from outside. Um, and is there a way, George, they can attend the event virtually?
Unfortunately, no. We're not. We didn't have enough time to get all of that sorted, Sarab. But maybe you'll come on the committee with me next year, and we'll get a little bit clever on that. Maybe you want to do a roving report on the night, Sarab.
Why not? We can think of doing something for our UGP community who are located.
UGP at the Paceway. It sounds good.
Yeah, because a lot of UGP listeners and speakers are located in other countries in Europe, United States, in India, South Asia, Southeast Asia. So we'd love to cover those people as well if they want to donate and come forward for this donation. But
Definitely,
thank you so much.
definitely.
Thank you so much, George. I really appreciate your time. Any final comments from your side? Because today you were not a co-host of Ultimate Global Podcast, but you joined us as the CEO of Ross Hutchison Foundation. So how different was this for you? Generally, you are a co-host. Now you're a CEO here on this Ultimate Global Podcast. How do you see this journey of a transition happening today for you?
I think the best part of it is, Sarab, I get to talk longer and I don't have to feel guilty that you're going to hit me.
Ah, so that's what I have to keep. That's what I have to make sure that I don't do this when we are going live with another speaker.
Thank you
Anyway,
very much, mate. I much appreciate your support too.
thank you so much, George. It's my pleasure to support you in such a wonderful initiative.
And
Thank you so
just
much.
for anybody watching, we thank you for the good wishes, but we need donations, we need things to raffle or auction, and we need them by Wednesday. And if not, there's always a donate button. You can go there.
Thank you, and have a wonderful day, George. And I hope to see you in all the episodes of Ultimate Global Podcast. To all our speakers, we say that we hope to see you in another episode. But for George, it's for all the episodes in this podcast because he's our co-host, and we want to continue doing this kind of series of episodes for charities and not-for-profits. Last time we had done it for the Be Kinder community, and I had in fact met Denny on the weekend in a networking event, and we were having a discussion in that networking event as to what were the most interesting things happened to everyone in the week. And Danny said one of the most interesting things that happened to me was that I was invited to a podcast by Saurabh. So that was good to know that she recognized our podcast in front of 10 to 15 different people. And I'm sure that this podcast has gained that kind of traction that people are recognizing it in a different way, that it's not running for a promotion part, it's running to kind of bring together all the people from different communities and share different stories here in this podcast. But thank you so much, George.
Thank you.
And that's it for today.
This is an Ultimate Global Podcast. Hello, and welcome to our special weekly podcast on trending international and social affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kaura and George Mavros from Sydney.